Hey, this is going to be a pretty raw episode. Thanks for all the support on the previous ones. I'm working hard to try and get this thing done, so this video is pretty sweet. Little update. I didn't want to record anything, so it's like 11 o'clock at night, but this morning I had a kind of soft start. We took the engine back out of the boat. I did some preliminary thoughts and measurements. Someone bought a few of the old 460 parts. I still have the block. I'm trying to get rid of that stuff. So I'm just gonna put it cheaper and cheaper until I sell it all. I made $100 today selling a few things, so happy about that. I grabbed some stuff. I'm not gonna end up using any of this for the fab of the mounts. I'm not a super big fan of the steel, even though I have my welder ready and everything. It's just unnecessary weight and bulk and whatever else. So I think I already showed how that oil filter thing makes the mounts offset. So this will be the driver's side, and then the passenger side is a 3/4, I think, difference. So I can't repurpose these really unless I got two of one side, which I don't really want to spend the money on a junk old mount. So a lot of thinking happened. The coolant on the floor is just from the jet drive when we winterized it. I had that cap off because I completely toasted that bearing because I forgot. The previous owner, not to blame him, it was my fault, but there was no Zerk fitting on that, so I never greased that bearing, so it kind of got cooked. It didn't seize, but it makes a lot of noise, and you can see the bearings are coming apart. So thankfully I have a new bearing here. Well, it's new. Well, you can tell it has a little surface rust on it, but the cages and balls are perfect, so that's going to go in. I'm going to leave the seal on the front of that. But what we did here, I have a little angle finder, and we took these two aluminum extrusions, and I just took one bolt out of the suction housing, or whatever that's called, intake that's glassed into the boat, and then we bolted that. And with the heads of the bolt aren't going to be exactly perfect, but neither is the casting. But I went off the casting to the shaft, like not the white part, but the black part on this particular drive is the same angle, give or take half a degree, as the drive shaft of the boat, or the drive shaft of the jet drive. So with most jet pumps, when you're running the antiquated U-joint setup, you want to have the boat, you want the jet pump shaft, sorry it's late, and the crankshaft angle, or the center axis of the engine, to be at the same level angle, but you need to have it up or down slightly by a certain, it's the degree of the center section of the U-joint, which supposedly keeps the needle bearings rotating, because if you have it perfectly aligned, they don't rotate, and then you also get some slack noising or backlash or stuff. Anyways, I'm not running one of those, so I'm making it perfectly aligned, well, perfectly aligned as best as I can, because of flex coupling you can do that, and also it's smaller footprint. Well, we'll see if it's a smaller footprint. It's going to be similar, but as these are on here, so we can theoretically take I don't have with me, a straight edge, and run this and scribe a line on the stringer where we want to mount the rails. So the rails will be at the same angle as the pump. You get my drift? I don't know what that angle is, but it's that angle. You can see it. So the engine will be at, the rails are going to mount on the stringers, wherever positionally I decide that, but these are just to assist with scribing where those rails are going to go. Unfortunately, I do not have the rails with me today, because none of the aluminum angle supply places are open, and I didn't want to use steel like we went over. So today's mission is to make the mounts. So there's a few companies that sell for modular engines. They sell, we call it a front motor mount, or front plate. I call them a front engine mount because I'm not. Anyways, so you go off these three bolts. This side's a little tricky because you got the crankshaft position sensor here, but most of them just go around that little notch. Like, I'll show you. I'll throw some pictures up on the screen of what I'm going to copy. The problem is the most available and budget-friendly ones kind of, well, excuse me, there's somewhere down in Detroit that makes them for like a reasonable price, I would say. But they're going to come up and over. But that would put the engine too low for where I needed it. And then there's a few companies that sell them that come straight across, and that's exactly what I need, but they're not that complicated of a part for me to make, so I'm gonna attempt to make these myself. This might kick my ass, but every once in a while you do need a challenge. So the left and right wings, some engines have a full like girdle, not usually the modular ones because the timing cover and all that. And then just to note, the top bolts are going into the cylinder head, which is aluminum, but I'm not too concerned about it. The castings are pretty stout, and there's not going to be a whole lot of force on this engine. It's stock power or whatever. I'm not super concerned about it. I was telling my buddy, it's like the boat has the rigidity of a noodle. It's not like a drag race chassis frame, so there's that. I still need to get the old big block off the engine stand so I can put this on the engine stand. I think I gotta do some research, but I think the E series vans have a different oil pan that's slightly higher that I might use. I have to change the pickup over as well. That'd be the quick and dirty thing rather than trying to cut and weld and bring it up, because I'm pretty sure, just off eyeballing it, that we're gonna have to cut or modify the oil pan. And I might want to modify it anyways for oil pickup, but we'll see that in the future. But yeah, this side's a little complicated because the crank sensor. This side is pretty easy. Everything's almost on the same plane wise with 3 bolts. This bottom one sticks out a little bit, but I'm not worried about that because I also bought aluminum tubing to make spacers. One of the videos I was watching, they mentioned that as an idea, so I was like, oh shit, that's a good idea. So I think it's 12 or 13 OD and then 10 mil ID to clear these are M12 by 1.75, something like that. I just cleaned, so before I got to this idea, I was cleaning the holes out there. So the F250 uses the wide pattern, but these are still threaded and viable mounting points. They're extremely crusty because they're in behind the engine mount, but I tapped those out and cleaned them with the intention of maybe using these inner 4 and going to a mount, but the idea of the engine plates was too tempting, so we're going with that. Let's see what else we can do. Just because this I shouldn't interfere with the headers at all, because if I just go straight down and then across, but I think it's going to look a lot cleaner and in the long run be easier to work on with the engine plates there. The only thing is with this plate here, or the water outlet oil cooler or oil filter relocation, that plate is going to sit like, if we're going to have a decent amount of room, we're going to have like to there. So it's not like super tight, but if there's any leaks or something in there, it could be a bit of a hassle to work on. But if I think about it, I can just support the engine under here and then take one of the wings off, basically, if I have to service that. It's not the end of the world. Same with the timing cover. If I ever take timing cover off, I just support the bottom or pull up on it with a crane and then pop the timing cover off, and it should be just as simple as having another engine mount on there. So I'm not mega worried about. For the backside, they do sell, like, there's a pretty reasonable priced mid plate, you'd call it. That's 1/4 inch. The only thing with that, I don't have the stock that plate in right now, but even with that, that's only whatever, not even a 16th. So the thing is, most of the mid plates are used on high power drag cars, and most high power drag cars are not using a T45, and most high power drag cars are using an automatic. And with the automatic, is you can leave the flex plate where it is and then space the torque converter off to get proper engagement into your oil pump and your transmission. With a manual transmission, adding a 1/4 inch and then leaving the flywheel there, or putting a 1/4 inch spacer on the crank to the flywheel and then your starter doesn't work, it's just too much of a hassle for what it's worth. I'm just trying to run a stock clutch arrangement. So for that case, what I'm going to do here is there's 3 bolts here. 3 bolts. Actually, my pinky finger doesn't work on. Anyways, 3 bolts here. So I'll take this. I'll get rid of this bracket. I don't know why I left that on there. But 1, 2, 3 here. I'll get well, I might have to take the manifolds off. That shouldn't be too hard considering there's 5 bolts. out of 10 remaining. But I don't have any extractors here, so that might delay us a little bit. Well, actually, we're just clear. If I knock that stud in, I should be able to still mock it out. That actually might help. But for this one, I'm going to use these 3 bolts. The other side's, it's not symmetrical on these. It's asymmetrical with the starter. So these 3 bolts, I have to profile around these fins fancily. And then I'm going to tie up to this cylinder head bolt. I don't know if that's going to really provide that much strength. I might veto that idea after. We'll see, but it doesn't. The front ones need to be quite wide. Like I ordered 8 by 12 1/4-inch blocks, or I don't know if it's a block or a sheet. Plate is a better term for that. So I'm going to go on the front. I'm going to have them 8 by 12 because I have the longer distance to go. But on the back, if I rotate them, I have 12 by 8, and then I can pick up that top hole. And then I can also pick up these 3 bolts. This is on a slightly different plane, but again, that's why I have that specific rod to have spacers, because it's a moderately thick wall aluminum spacer. Like I'm not gonna make billet plates just for this, it's ridiculous, but this is a pretty thin casting. Like if there's any torque put through that, it would probably snap off. But again, they are engineered. Like I don't know if these are symmetrical heads. I don't think they are. No, they're not, because anyways, I don't know, but on the front, some of the accessories hang off those, and that's good enough. Like 3 bolts plus that of 10 mil decent spec fasteners is going to be enough. If it isn't, God forbid what's going to happen. So anyways, do that, and then on this side, we're going to have a slightly more complicated setup. So we're missing the 3rd bolt here. So we just, as you can see on here, thankfully I left this off so I have a template to work off of, but, so this side, 1, 2, 3, is that 1, 2, 3? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, well, then there's a dowel running through one of them, and then this one, we got 1, 2, so that's why I want to add the 3rd, and technically 4th on that side bolt, just for a little extra, because it's a lot of force on just these 2 bolts. Now, I am thinking ahead here. If I ever take the clutch off on this, how that would work, but I guess I just have to support the engine. Even with a mid plate, it would be a little tricky to service the clutch, but I've already committed to this idea, so I'm just running through my head how I do that. I'd probably support under the oil pan, slide the engine forward, I don't know, I'll think about it. But theoretically, I should be able to still service the clutch in the boat, if not given a little difficulty. I didn't think of that, I'm just realizing that now, but I really shouldn't have to service the clutch or mess with it too much. That might bite me in the ass saying that now, but like, I'm not shifting gears in this. It's going to be on most of the time, I should say. So I don't know how much battery I have left, so I'm going to keep these short and sweet. It is looking like I'm going to have to snip the studs off. Ooh, that's probably just going to clear. So we're going to run off the spacing for those bolts and then tie into here with the spacer. So by the looks of it, that isn't on the same plane. I'll have to verify. Yeah, no, that lower bolt definitely sits in just a touch more. So you're going to have to deal with some angles here, but nothing I can't figure out at 11 o'clock. This side looks to be the easy side because all of the things are in a straight line, if that makes sense. But I don't know which side is the easiest side to start with, but I'm going to find some cardboard, make some templates, and we'll go from there. Because I'm going to make cardboard templates first, and then we'll make a come on, brain. Cardboard templates, and then we'll make plywood templates, and then we'll make the real deal. So I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna take the exhaust off right away, but I might have to. So we got a long day ahead of us, and I don't know when my plates are coming from Amazon. That might be late tomorrow. So if I get almost perfect templates, then we can continue on. But I'm gonna shut the camera for battery saving purposes because I can't remember where I put the battery last, and then we'll put some music on and get plugged in and stuck in on this. So yeah. Okay, so things have progressed a little bit. I took the bottom two, well, I took more of the accessorize off. Then I took 2 of the oil pan / timing cover bolts out, put an aluminum channel on there to make it, just because I want to be perpendicular off the bottom deck of the block, I guess you'd call it. But realizing how that is going to go in there, I need the front mounts to drop lower so the rail can still be covered by the transom, if that makes sense. So this is our template of 12x8 aluminum. So this side is going to be a little tricky, but I actually measured and it looks like they're going to be symmetrical. So I just smeared some grease on here. I put, this bolt is sunken in a little bit, so I just put the bolt in there, and I guess I'll smear more grease on it. And then I'm going to have this at maximum, I can't hold this at maximum height, so I get the maximum lowness on this, if that makes sense. So I'm going to slide this over, tap it into the grease, and then we will have our template. And then from rough measurements, the driver's side is, not the driver's side, God, starboard, or the right side, or the passenger side of the engine is the same, except this guy here is inset a little bit more, and then this guy here probably the same amount, but then we got the crankshaft position sensor in the way, which I thought would be a pain to unplug, but it's actually really not that bad. You just reach your hand in and pull it down that way, so that can stay, I guess. If you ever have to replace it, again, plate's got to come off, but we went through that. It shouldn't be that hard. So yeah, essentially, I mean, I could probably just leave them square. That would look very hoopty red, not hoopty, that would look very redneck, but I literally could just leave them like that, which would be funny, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, so this side, since these two are on the same plane, I can smush it up, and then I'll get a little mark for this bolt. That's a smaller diameter thread, or diameter bolt, so it's actually a little easier to, I can drill a bigger hole and make it work, essentially is all I'm saying. I don't want to, but I can do that. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm doing the front ones first because the rear ones shouldn't be as complicated, because I'm just using the stock spacer plate, whatever you want to say, to mark holes. This one is completely off the map. Like, there's no template for this other than the one I make. So we're doing that. It's probably like 12 o'clock now. Probably later, actually. I haven't checked my phone. Let me look at that. But oh, okay, it's 20 after midnight, which is fine. Again, no plans tomorrow, so we're getting through it. I took the water pump pulley off just to get a better idea. I'm not 100% on the coolant flow of this block yet, or whether I'm gonna have to. I'm not gonna use a water pump because there's no need to. I'm not a super big fan of aluminum head and iron block, but the other engine had an aluminum intake. It looked real nasty, but at some point we'll just have to get it hot and flush it with some shit every once in a while, maybe at the end of the season or the beginning of the season, just to keep things fresh, because I'll have all AN lines and aluminum fittings as well. Even though those are anodized, it should be less bad. And it's fresh lake water, so it should be less bad, but you know, it's still fresh water, not coolant, so there's some galvanic corrosion. I don't know why I'm yapping. We're gonna get going on this. So yeah, I'm gonna do this and then see if mirror image works, and then just do a little on there for the the crank position sensor, and then we will, I think I'm just gonna do cardboard to aluminum. I don't see the whole point of making a wood template. I can make it look fancy with all the round bits on it, but yeah, there's not really a purpose to that. The one YouTube video I was going off of, the guy had a 4-valve 4.6, and that I think came out a little more. Like, he was having to trim his already prefab plates around here, but this whole area is a lot different on this engine. I think this is more like the 5.4 2-valve, I think. It's confusing. a multitude of different variants of the modular stuff. But I'm getting there. I'm learning. Educated. So I'm going to smear more grease on those bolts. Well, that bolt there, smear grease, smear, burp. And then I'm just going to make the bottom, make sure the bottom of this cardboard is square to that piece of aluminum. And that should give us a moderately square setup. So, yeah. And then I don't think I'm going to make, actually it'd be pretty easy to make a second template and just cut out that little where the crank sensor goes. So, yeah. I mean, I could theoretically just zip that off and then glue the sensor in, but that'd be very ratchet. Or, well, okay. If I really was pedantic, I could cut that off, make it flush, make a bracket off here that holds that sensor in, but that'd literally be insane. So I'm not gonna do that because it'd be cutting it freaking close, and also that'd be dumb. I don't know why I'm thinking of doing that. That's an insane idea. Not gonna do that. But yeah, and then I did initially think, hey, I could make motor plates off the AC compressor mount and the power steering mount, but they're completely different, and that would bring them in closer to that water outlet on the other side. So this is the way I think I'm kind of already committed, if you haven't already noticed. So again, preserving battery life, short update. It is now 1 o'clock. No, it's past 1 o'clock. 1:22. Got both the brackets made up. They are symmetrical other than this hole here, which on this one sits a little closer to the crankshaft. So I flipped it and then fixed that hole position. This is a little rough. I can bring that up a little. I was gonna make them symmetrical, but that doesn't leave very much meat. I might change that actually, because it's got to be symmetrical, but I don't think that the heads are inherently symmetrical anyways, and I want more meat above this perhaps, but it might look weird, so I might bring that line to meet. Anyways, I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I got the plates done. I might tinker with the angle shape on that one, but we're pretty much there. Yeah, because this little ear off the end here beside the hole isn't really doing much, so I'll make it look a little more symmetrical. But there we go, we got the front plates. So depending on where the angle mounts end up, I probably could take some meat out of there, but if not, then I'm not that concerned about it. Next, hopefully it will be quicker. I'll start on the rear plates. So yeah, I don't know if I can spin the engine around and work in the same spot or what, but we'll get rolling on that. As a quick update, I would take them off, but I have them threaded in, so yeah. Trying to think what else. I took the big plate off because I didn't need that anymore. It's getting in the way of rigging stuff up, so yeah, exciting stuff. And if I had got really optimistic, I could have someone CNC stuff in there or do it myself with my 3D printer. I don't know. It is tired. Me brain not working other than fabrication. So let's continue. I got a little bit of a late start today. It's decent in the evening. It's like 4 o'clock, 4:30. I've been out here for an hour and a bit. This is what I meant by, so I'm not making a mid plate, I'm just making a plate that goes along here. This was the more difficult side because of the contour around the starter and these little fins. I could theoretically knock down those fins actually. I might do that because it's probably more important to have more rigidity in this plate than the transmission, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So but there's still this bolt has the least amount of meat around the edge of it, which is I'm gonna make the plate bigger than it needs to be and then just slowly whittle it down till it's within the spec I need. Like I can just use a socket to find the radius of that and then transfer that onto the aluminum. This side, I messed this template up once. I did this up too high. I don't know how that ended up, but I had this pattern good. So I just made this and then dropped this to the same level as the other ones. And then I remarked this top hole, and then everything squared up. So I might make it a little more fancy, like come off the side of this. I'm probably gonna leave it straight down because there's no reason not to do that. Like I'll just add the radius in here or just come down here. I don't know yet. But this is basically, so this head, the bolt sits a little bit lower than that side. So this here to here is like maxed out at 12 inches, which is perfect because that's the size of material I have. If that wasn't the case, I would just trim the bottom of the front ones. I'd probably trim the top and then leave the bottom square and then shift them down a little bit. But thankfully this is gonna work. Unlike the front, there's no symmetry between any of the bolts here. The bottom ones are close, but they're not exactly, and then the top ones are off as well. So no symmetry. This side, I said this side is the harder side because it's cut out, but it's actually not the worst because these two bolts sit on the same plane. On this side, okay, never mind, all these sit on the same plane, roughly. I know they're not machine surfaces, but it's pretty freaking close. Like, it's not going to be too difficult. So, but yeah, the offset of the cylinder head here is a little different from the other side, I believe. I don't know if the heads sit, because the V, you got a staggered V obviously, so one cylinder head sits a little more far forward than the other, but then they build that into the machining too. So yeah, I'm thinking how else that would work, but yeah, they're symmetrical. They're not 100% symmetrical heads, obviously, because the intakes are, no, they are symmetrical heads, I think. I'll have to double check that, but I think they are. This doesn't really do much. It's just bolted across the oil pan. I think today I'll also take the oil pan off because getting it in and out of the boat, I might have to take the pickup off also. Getting it in and out of the boat, that oil pan definitely does not clear. I know that for sure, but tomorrow at work I'm gonna ask our parts supplier if they have any E250 engines in stock, oil pans in stock, to measure it, and then if that works, I'm not going to go through the trouble of getting a different pan. Alright, the aluminum plate finally got here. This thing is around 9 o'clock. Got the first simplest one. This is the passenger side front plate. With the front ones, I actually can lay them out without even cutting this back section. So if I mess up one of these holes, which I don't plan to, I can reuse one of these as the back plates because they're substantially more narrow, but we'll see how that goes. The back ones were substantially more difficult to figure out than the front ones. The left one, somehow everything got skewed down, so there's not much meat at the top of the hole there, but I gotta remove a 1/4 inch and then add whatever, you'll see. Anyways, I don't know if we're gonna get to the back ones. This front one should be simple-ish. And then we'll go from there. So I'm gonna start drilling and then see how it goes. I don't know if you guys want to see me drill, but drill press, shop is a mess. Okay, the fit up went really well. Nifty tool I found in my dad's stuff is this. There's a few different sizes. It's this drill sander kit, and with a drill press, like a low-speed metal cutting drill press like this one, it works phenomenally for rounding off corners in a jiffy. This, I cut a little too far here because I was trying to get the jigsaw to start on this high angle. It didn't work, but as you can see on the round parts, works excellently. So I don't have a mill, but this is kind of not the next best, but it's in a long line of things that work. So okay, it's only about 11 o'clock, but I gotta head to bed because I've been at work lately, or not at work lately, I gotta go to bed earlier, nonetheless, is all I'm trying to say. Yeah, going good. Got the front two done. This one has a decent amount of play just because there's no, the spacers aren't in behind it. I'll do those tomorrow. This one turned out perfect, the first one, but it's kind of the most basic shape. The other cool thing I was thinking about, this is like way ahead, but the oil filter outlet is right there, and I can mount the filter right to the front here for easy access. And then I could mount the, on the other side, I could mount the fuel filter water separator thing. I'd have to get a black anodized housing for that though. I don't think I would want to ride in that, but if it was not a work night, I would continue and get these slammed out, but nonetheless, I have the templates ready, so. But yeah, the left side, or the right side was a little off, but it's hard to get the exact level when the engine is moving and floating in the air, so. Yeah, that's all. There's a little apprentice mark there, but it's fine. I think I might just sand them because I'm lazy. Yeah, and I don't know how necessary the width is here. It's nice to pick up and triangulate here, but I might only be working with like half the half that there. So yeah, just looking at it, we could go. How much is that? Anyways, I just want to try and figure out what I need for aluminum angle, so I can pick that up tomorrow. But I don't think I will. So it's Monday. I'm starting on the right side back plate. It's hard to see even what I'm working on, but I'm just refining the lines a bit more. And then the goal is to go a little too much and then cut it back, rather than cut too much and then not have enough meat. So I don't know whether the strategy is going to be good, but we're going to try it. So all I'm using is this jigsaw with the metal blade. It works pretty good. You just go slow, and then I clamp a guide for the straight portions. There really isn't that many straight ones though, so. And then we'll see how I get this radius in here. I don't have any hole saws that big that I want to use in this, so I might just hog it out with something. We'll see. So it's got the right rear plate done. There's still a few spots to clearance on this one, but I'll deal with those after because it sits flush as is. Anyways, I gotta get on. I'm kind of tired. But yeah, we'll continue on as the engine slowly rocks. Let's see. Yeah. I'm just tired, so note to self: put the plate on before you make the dowel spacers. Okay, now I have the rough outline. I just test fit the holes, and then we start grinding and making everything look moderately pretty. That's pretty rough, but so let me just hold you here. I'm using a pretty gutless little 1/4 inch Milwaukee, and that prevents me from ever going too tight on them and messing something up. So I'm going to thread, you can't see it, so I have this little bolt. I'm going to thread that in, and then when I tighten it down to the correct depth, I'll be able to mark a hole based on where that lines up, and then that gives you your hole. Obviously don't drill it that big, so that'd be too big, but use that to find the center mark and then punch it out. Okay, so it's Friday, and I need to figure out metal because no metal supplier is open. So for the 1/4 inch angle, the other thing I discovered, I didn't really discover it, I just did some basic research, but the oil pan from an E-series van, so E350s, I don't think the E250s came with the V10, so motorhomes, I think only motorhomes and box trucks would have the V10. Anyways, so that's the pan for the E350, and that's the pan for the S series. So different front axle geometry, I guess. All the vans are rear wheel drive, so this truck was also rear wheel drive, but they probably use the same pans from my knowledge. Anyways, Long story short, that's a shallower pan, which I kind of need. And I really didn't want to modify the steel pan. It's just a pain to weld, especially because I don't have a TIG welder. So we are going to throw the pan on and mock it up. I still don't have that final hole drilled, but the plates are roughly in the correct spot they need to be. So we are going to take the pan off. I don't know if I'm going to record that, but anyways, I'll catch up to you in a sec. Okay, it is a beautiful Saturday evening. I procrastinated all morning and slept in, but yesterday I picked up some raw materials. This is a 1/4 inch 3x3. This is going to be mounted to the inside of the stringers, and then I got some 1/8 inch by 2 for the outside stringer attachments, and then this 2x2 angle for going. I'm gonna chop it up, but it's to go between the mount and the stringer rail. So we have these raw materials, and we are going to turn them into cooked materials. That sounded funnier in my head. Anyway. Verified that the engine is actually going to fit, which is good. I did have to pull it back out of the boat. We got to put the spacer in between the transmission, and then mark the center line on the shaft. Then figure out how much we got to trim, and then yes, and we'll go from there. I'm just gonna throw the aluminum in just to wrap my head around how everything's gonna work, and then we will commence.
I know you want to cut out this.
I don't think I need a bother.
I could cut off the overhang, or like.
Yeah, I think so. I was just filming you cutting that because it was funny.
Oh.
Just cutting it about.
I'm gonna be in your video later.
Only a little bit.
Okay, I'm just gonna. Oh shit. No, this is not quite true either.
No? Oh. Didn't it get a little closer to it, or? I use a ruler as a tool. Shit.
Well, you have to have something interesting on your
Precision measuring.
precision.
Okay, I'm not gonna film anymore. I'm just.
What's that?
Well, I could set up the camera and let it roll. Hello again. We were getting started on the boat mounting. We almost got the rails finalized. Only thing is, I had a bit of trouble with Brangus, my 89 F250, with the old ignition control module issues, so that threw me off of getting some of this done because I was staying late at work, and it's been a heat wave. So what we did end up with was a clearance issue. So this is the fancy new starter I got on here. So this is a clockable starter. It's just like the one I had on the big block, except this one is forward rotation. Pretty much every starter, minus a few you can get for the modular engines, has the solenoid on the bottom here. And where our mount system is going to end up, like that rail was going to be basically just touching the solenoid, and that was too close for comfort, I'll say. So what I've done is I did a bit of research, and I found there's like one brand available that you can get a clockable starter for a mod motor. There's a few like overseas, but I could actually just get this off Amazon Canada. So I was just figuring out what angle I wanted that. I can actually rotate this up closer to the block, like one more bolt hole, but I can't actually get to that back bolt. This front one I actually need a ball end Allen, so 5mm Allen to get to. I changed the bolts out for Allens because it looks a lot more clean and, I don't know, professional. They're not stainless though, so I'm not 100% sold on that yet. There you go. So this starter, see these 3 bolts? You can rotate this housing with the 3 bolts to position the solenoid in a more favorable position. And also it's supposedly a better, higher power, torquier starter, which I don't think I'll ever have the particular need for, but I have it. And having a bad starter go in the lake is probably not a best thing, so I figured I'd just splurge on that. Oh, yeah, I have to record some of this.
Oh, yeah, it's a good thing you did record that.
Well, that was a just painful process, but it's good now. So.
Well, you should feel good about it.
Well, we still gotta drill the holes, but we're there. Okay. But everything looks kind of where it should be. Yeah, and then I have it so we'll put a bolt. Oh, we need to figure out how much we gotta chop off the end too.
The end of what?
The one side that's off center.
The side that's more to the left?
Yeah.
Well, I thought you figured it's like half.
About a ½ inch, yeah. Okay. So miraculously we got the stringer rails. Miraculously the stringer rails we got lined up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just talking over video. I got the holes laid out for the bolts. I'm gonna do 3 on each side. We're marking the engine mounting plates just to clear because the engine isn't exactly centered in the boat, which is kind of annoying. Or not the engine, the jet pump isn't centered exactly, so we have to compensate for that on the engine side. So marking those, and then I'm drilling some holes. Okay, so the stringers are off again. Engine plates are off again. We did some aluminum cutting, as you can see, so they've all been trimmed a pretty decent amount because of where they're going to end up. I should clean off the engine more, but I don't feel like doing that right now. See what else I have going on. The rails, all the holes are drilled. Doing 3 bolts. Maybe I could have done 4, but 3 should be adequate, I would think. But I just laid them out in a way that made sense. I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but it doesn't matter that much. I only have 4 bolts for mock-up, but I'll throw another bolt in here that's the correct size. But yeah, I'm gonna throw the rails back in, and then we'll get the plates bolted back up to the engine, and then see where that left us. Hopefully we're all kind of still square. It's laid out on the stringer. I don't know if you can see it. We'll still have to plug the holes for the rails, but looking solid so far. So give you an update when we get the rails in, and then when we get the engine in, I guess. So yeah. We are bolted in, and somehow all the angles are good. But yeah, look at the alignment here. So obviously this isn't, when this is pressed in, that's pretty, that's with it pushed up, like it'll fall because of the roller bearing. But I have it left to right, doesn't matter because I already got that, but the up and down.
Oh, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks perfect. Like it's like
hard to...
dead on, but I can't look sideways on it. But so ideally someone can lob that down to almost the gear and get it almost inside this spot.
Need these?
No, that's just the old, that's the main, that's like the main shaft gear. So it's not necessarily first gear. Actually, that would be first or sixth. Anyways, but it's not really how it works, but yeah. So, I just need, so I'm guessing it's probably going to be...
I can see how, if anything, the whole thing is going to...
It's going to be forward, yeah, for sure, forward.
By the time you...
Yeah, so...
Oh, do you want this thing now or no?
Which? Oh, no, I don't. I just wanted, I took that off so I could see the shaft more clearly. Because that obscures most of it. It's just a nub sticking out. That way I can get an eyeball on how straight it is compared to the other one. So, yeah, it looks solid.
It looks... is this down?
Yeah, no, you have to push that in. I'm going to get like a plain bearing, like a, not a plain bearing, like a roller bearing of the same specification. I just had to pop that race out to get the number off of it. And then I get it.
Oh no, we got to leave that.
You can, yeah, I think it's fine. There's still enough weight on the crane. Like this is not... That's not loose, right, intentionally, so we're not crushing the boat into the engine into the boat.
Me out. I thought I bent the whole thing. Just did not feel it. Maybe the wheels just slid sideways.
Yeah. Okay. That is excellent.
So can you see how the exhaust will work, maybe?
Yeah. So there's plenty of room on both sides. I don't know. Like a. Turns out, if you have 2010 Camaro and you want to be dirt cheap, you can buy one of these for like 30 bucks. Comes with the bolts and fits right on. Look at that. So now, I have a flex coupling. I have a drive shaft. The last thing to do is cut them apart. It's gonna suck having to. Wait.